Welcome to the Tom Bernard Podcast, The Family, with
Michael Bryant
and Andy Brant Bernard.
Now, I got to tell you right up front, it's unbelievable. Your headphones aren't working?
I guess these aren't working now.
Got to charge those, I guess.
Hell with me.
Got another set up there.
Look at this.
Here, I'll give you those.
We're going to get new headphones.
No women show up.
That's true.
There we go. Now it's working.
Now you're talking.
Much
You're done
better.
talking. So why can't Kristen be on today?
I don't remember. I think she's at a shoot or something to that
She's at
effect.
some kind of shoot, and she's not in tomorrow either, is she?
Nope.
Today and tomorrow she's off. Then you got Catherine's not here because she's at Grandparents' Day, and that's why Alex isn't here. So none of the women showed up. So I figure it's a good time to talk about. Now you're a big Timberwolves fan, aren't you?
Oh, I go to the games. Yeah.
Yeah, you go to the games.
Right. Yeah.
So-
I have half a season tickets.
Did you see this coming?
The potential was there from last season. Their defense is really good. I still am not a big fan of Finch. I don't know that Finch is going to get them. Even last night, in the second half, when they could have just stepped on their throat and been done, Lakers did a run with three where we were just throwing up 3-pointers and not eating clock. That a lot of coaches would have called a timeout there and slowed everything down, but he doesn't. And I have a problem with that.
Because they had a big lead and you slow things down and everything. Yeah, okay.
Yep. You got to eat that clock. Yep.
But didn't they win the series like 4-1 or something?
Well, there was a lot of people, and I was in that camp originally that thought the Lakers might be a bad matchup because the refs wanted to see the Lakers win. And because still got LeBron, you still got Luka. But the reality was they had no inside game, and Gobert was able to take care of that. In fact, last night Shaq was actually kind of doing a skit where he was choking on saying that Gobert was doing good job. So, but he kept saying it because Gobert was. I mean, Gobert got a lot of points. He had a good game. So
how does this happen? I mean, out of nowhere, because I've never been a big fan since the Minneapolis Lakers screwed us over by leaving when I think I was 8 years old. That was a long time
you were
ago.
a fan during Garnett and during some of the Marbury when
yeah,
they made
that's
the run.
true.
And
they had some good players. They did, and I liked them. Well, I like the players, not necessarily the team, because they've never won anything before. I mean, they have won nothing before. To win that series, plus blow them out the way they did, really shocked the hell out.
Lakers have weaknesses, and weaknesses underneath, and we took advantage of them. And when it's all said and done, we got a really good defense. And when our defense plays well, I mean, there were points last season during the playoffs where they thought that the Wolves were the best team in basketball because of their defense. But, that's hard to keep up. And again, I still think there's some coaching issues.
I still can't adjust to the name John Hines anyway.
Okay.
I can't do it because I grew up with John Hines and worked with him at KSTP and the whole deal. So every time they say his name, I go, John Hines. I mean, it's just the way it is.
Okay. So
it's just the way the whole thing works. So basically now, am I wrong here? I thought the hockey team would do better than they're doing.
Well, the hockey team had a lot of injuries.
Yeah, that's true.
And then they had some weird coaching issues also that kind of played a role in what they were doing. And that Wild team has a problem coming together.
They really do.
And then they also don't set themselves up in the best positions. They're not. They lose that home ice advantage that would make a difference so many different times where they've lost it at the end of the season and they just don't produce. But they played the Knights really well, and they played the Knights in the middle of the night. So
yeah.
So
I mean, it's really interesting after growing up in this town, and some of the teams have come and gone, and obviously 87 and 91 was huge because, well, again, I guess I got very, very lucky because I predicted in 87 before the season started they were going to win the World Series. Everyone, you're out of your mind. There's no way that's going to happen.
Yep.
So it wasn't just all the fact that I've been such a huge fan. And I've told this story a million times, but I'll just very quickly again. When David Anderson's father took us to a baseball game, and when I think it was 8 or 9. I think I might have been 8, but I always say I was 9. As it turned into a night game and the lights came on, I looked at that field and I said, this is the most beautiful thing I have ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah. The green field and the wall. And it's a beautiful place.
You go from North Minneapolis where I think about 3 people have a lawn.
Mhm.
The rest of them don't care about it at all.
Yep.
But so I've been a Twins fan my whole life, just absolutely loved it. And I was, for about 2 minutes, a Minneapolis Lakers. It wasn't even the Minnesota Lakers. It was the Minneapolis Lakers. And I still don't understand how you use the name Lakers in Los Angeles.
Yeah, well, Jazz in New Orleans, or in Utah.
In Utah, Jazz in Utah. Yeah, Jazz in New Orleans works. Jazz in Utah does not work for me.
Mm-hmm.
But honest to God, the excitement of this whole situation. One thing I've really noticed, this market, because I've been gone for a while. This market now is either music or sports talk on the radio.
Oh, is it?
I mean, it's the whole market is that way.
Mm-hmm.
Do they have any news talk stations?
Yeah,
anymore?
there's still some news talk. TCO, I think, still has decent.
Oh, that's true.
News,
yeah.
And there's other stations that do some news talk, but it's there is a lot of sports talk.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's just one of those situations where, I've got a lot of friends still in the business. I listen to it. I heard, matter of fact, I sent Meat Sauce a message this morning that I was up and listening to the show live, so it better be good.
Mm-hmm.
And they, of course, are completely worked up over this whole situation
with the Timberwolves.
And well, now the Wild's still not doing very well.
Well, the Wild's still in the playoffs, and
but aren't they down?
They're down, but they got a home game tonight, and I think they're 3-2. I think
3-2 now.
I thought it was 2-2 going into the last game, but they're a home game tonight, and they're still in it. And when you still got a chip in the chair, you got a shot.
See, a chip in a chair.
Chip in a chair.
I haven't heard that in a while.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But what's really cool about the whole situation is, and I really like this, because I don't know that maybe you do hear it in other markets, but I have not in New York. It's not. There's an excitement when teams do well in this market like nowhere else you go.
Well, there's a bandwagon effect that happens.
Yeah,
here
that's true.
Is very thin. I mean, this place would go insane. Well, it's been a long time, but I mean, it's gone insane a couple of times on the Vikings, and that's probably still the top one that'll make things happen as far as the town goes. But there's a lot of fans that go in and out with the Wolves, go in and out with the Wild. I mean, there's a basic team there that is 3-2.
It's 3-2. Okay,
3-2.
Good.
There's basic fan base there with the Wild, with all the teams, but there's lots of fans that float in and out in this town.
Yeah,
I mean, think about the Gophers. How often has the Gophers had fans for 2 or 3 weeks and then they lose, to somebody they shouldn't lose to, and that's it.
Who would have ever thought when Jim Dutcher left, that team would fall apart for the rest of the time?
Gopher basketball. Well,
I mean, my God. That team
there were a couple good
years.
Teams. Clem had some really good teams.
Yeah, he did.
Absolutely. I mean, we're supposed to forget about them and clean them out of our brain, but that was
because they cheated.
They got caught cheating, is what happened.
That's a good way to put it.
And the cheating was helping a guy pass a class. I mean, it wasn't.
That's true.
It wasn't giving him money.
Nope.
It wasn't giving him fake grades. It was actually getting a tutor for a player.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because Andy, I got to run this by. I know you're not a sports fan and all the rest of it, but did you know any? I heard about this, but I didn't pay any attention to it. The money these college players are making now.
Oh, Nile
is psychotic.
Niles has changed sports completely.
$2.5 million a year to play college
more than that.
It's more than that.
Yeah, some of them are making a lot more than
totally
that.
ridiculous.
I mean, there are a couple players that have decided whether or not they want to go pro or stay with what they're making in Nile, so that they can get another year at a championship. Coaches have to recruit their teams every single year, because guys can get into the portal and transfer.
Right.
They last night when the Lakers were dead, they were talking last night that a bunch of them should get in the portal.
Well,
because there was a point in the fourth quarter where they just absolutely lost interest and went downhill. So
it's so funny, because I just got back last night to town. We came into town for about a week, and then we're going back and shutting things down in Florida, and then coming back for the entire summer, which we're looking for. We've run into a bunch of people already. One thing I got to say about this is that I just absolutely love there's a Lunds and Byerly's in Wayzata, Minnesota that I go to. I walked in there this morning. You would have thought that Jesus came off the cross.
Oh, yeah.
God, they were so nice. Like, Tommy, you're back. Oh, my God. I said, well, I got to go. I'll be back for good in about 3 weeks and all the rest of it. But you know how nice that is to walk into a business and
be greeted. Yeah.
And be greeted like that. And
yeah.
It's the women and it's the men, it's the older people, it's the younger people. Just very, very, there's so many things about this town and this state that I just absolutely adore.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you talk about where you grew up and, Rhode Island and being a Boston fan and all that stuff. You stick with that.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
But I do. I get back to town. The Lakers get their ass handed to them, which I did not see that coming.
Mm-hmm.
They told me that our team was going to do a better job. A Timberwolves was going to kick their ass. I didn't believe them.
Yep.
Because I've heard it so many times before.
There have been other times when they've let us down.
There's no question about that. We got to take a quick break, but I want to come back and talk more about this. Andy, do you watch any sports at all?
No, I don't.
Yeah, you've never been a sports fan.
I don't think I've ever been into any sport, really.
Well, you've watched some football with me once in a while.
Oh, yeah. Like when I was a kid, I remember going down to the barn and, we had wings and Fitz always brought the lamb chops and the mint jelly.
Yeah, I suppose that's true.
Yeah, I definitely remember, doing that all the time. But I didn't.
Lamb chops and mint jelly.
It's what he brought.
Yeah.
He always bought lamb chops and mint jelly. That was his thing.
That's true.
But yeah, I never paid attention to the games, really. I was there for the food.
Huh.
Now, ordinarily, Kristen Bird would be sponsored by North American Banking Company, but she's not going to be here today or tomorrow.
Nope.
It says here 11 o'clock, Kristen leaves. Well, she's already left, and it's only 10:49. So there you have it. Yeah, she can't be in today or tomorrow. Looking forward to that. But we do have a guy here that might be bringing us the next segment of the entire situation. We'll be back right after this word from Bradshaw and Bryant. From Bradshaw and Bryant, Michael Bryant. What's up, Allie?
Oh, not much. Doing my usual thing of telling people they shouldn't be texting and driving. In Minnesota, you can't have your phone in your hands. You can use, hands-free, but you can't have your phone in your hand for whatever reason. And that's why they made the law the way they did, so that police officers could see a phone in your hand and you got no excuse for why you got it there.
Do people know that that's the law?
I hope so. I mean, they used to follow it, and then kind of COVID kind of made people forget. And now it's like a freewheeling world out there with cell phones.
Let's say you get pulled over because you do have a phone in your hand and you're not watching where you're going. You got to be in pretty big trouble then, I would guess.
Well, the first one's not as bad. It's the multiple ones, the problem. And once people start stacking them up, then they have a big problem. And then what we're doing in car accidents is we've started bringing motions for punitive damages, because I'm trying to use the civil law any way we can to stop this, because it needs to stop.
Whenever I'd had any problems in my life, who was that I called again? It was like an MB, something like that.
Bradshaw and Bryant.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening. You're listening to me. You're listening to Mike. You're listening to Andy. Your customers are listening to us as well, and they'll hear me talking about your business. So here's the deal. The Tom Bernard Podcast attracts thousands of listeners who are loyal, engaged, and ready to support businesses they trust. Our podcast has helped numerous businesses increase traffic, sales, and brand recognition. And we're not just about ads, we're about the results. Whether you're a local business or a national brand, we offer custom advertising packages designed to fit your unique needs and goals. Let's talk targeted marketing. Our audience spans multiple demographics, allowing you to target your ideal customers with precision, from millennials to baby boomers and everyone in between. So here's the deal. You need to increase your awareness. With our broad reach and passionate following, your business will see increased visibility and awareness, translating into more customers and sales. So give us a whirl, give us a listen, and come on board. We'd love to have you. I'll say it again. I've been out of town for a while, and I got back yesterday. And because the Wild are at 3-2, you said, the Timberwolves did beat the LA Lakers.
They're figuring out who they're going to play next.
Now, how do they figure out who they're going to play
next? It's the winner of Golden State Houston.
Oh, that's who it is. Okay.
So it depends. I mean, if Golden State can win that thing, then we get a home court advantage for the playoffs. And then you know what's interesting is it's Nugget. Nuggets are in a contest right now. Sounds like we got him here. Nuggets are in a tight one there. Oklahoma would whether or not Denver could give Oklahoma a run. So there's a lot that could happen.
They must let anybody come in here now. This is unbelievable.
Are these the ones that didn't work?
No, he put those. I gave him on the charger.
All right.
Yeah.
How you doing, Pally? Good to see you. You know Michael Bryant?
Yeah. Hi. How you doing? Hi. How you doing?
Unbelievable. I've an old friend here. How many years have I known you? About 40?
Yeah, 35.
35.
Is his mic on?
Not yet, but he's going to.
We're in the middle of a show.
Everybody knows this is podcasting. This is how it kind of works. You just do what you do. And I've been actually, as we've been talking so far, I just got back to town yesterday. And to come back to Minnesota, first of all, the weather's nice. It's supposed to rain this afternoon, I guess, but then for the next several days, it's going to be absolutely beautiful. But to come back with the excitement of the Lakers getting their ass handed to them, which I did not see. People told me it's going to happen, Tom. It's going to happen, and it's just one of those situations where I've been a fan of Minnesota teams for so long. I still can't believe that our football team, the Vikings, have never won a championship, a Super Bowl. What the hell? How many times did they come this close, but never got it done? Wow. So to come back to town, you guys might not feel this, but I've been out of town for, several months. And to get back in town, there's a buzz going on in this market. You guys might not even hear, but there is a hell of a buzz going on. People are very excited about it.
Getting here the day after a win helps.
It does help quite a bit. You're absolutely right about that. But it's just the whole situation is so exciting. And when Andy gets Billy's headphones all connected, we're gonna
your mic's on.
Well, your mic is on now. Well, yeah, you can hear us anyway. So what's the difference?
Yeah, I don't need headphones.
So I'm going to do a slight adjustment to this. Like I said, Jax, the entire family, Billy's family, I've known for 3 generations now.
Yeah, that for sure.
Maybe 4. It might be, but it's always been one of my favorite places. And what I to this day, the Jax over there, Northeast Minneapolis, I brought my mother there every year for her birthday party, and you guys put on a party for her like there was no tomorrow. And so that's the kind of place that Jax is to me, and that your whole family is to me. That my mother, she thought she was the queen of the Nile when she went over there because you guys were so good to her. It was just absolutely wonderful. So thank you.
No, thank you. Moms are great. Everybody thinks, what are you going to do when those old ladies die? Well, the next generation comes along because they kept taking their moms there.
Oh, it's true. Honest to God. She sat there like she was, Mm-hmm. She was like the biggest deal in town because, the uncles and aunts and everybody came, and it was just a wonderful, wonderful time. And I'm going to see if I can make Billy laugh because I'm going to alter it just a little bit. But I once told Billy a joke, and every time I get a message from Billy, he includes that joke at the bottom of the message.
Oh, yeah. Your bike.
What?
Actually, it was a joke of the day on your morning show, and the delay back then must have been a little bit shorter because the person called in and told the joke of the day, and I almost drove off Highway 100.
So we changed it now to. So, Michael Bryant, what does a kid from North Minneapolis get for Christmas?
I don't know. What
Your
does a kid
bike.
get?
And we've been laughing about that's 40 years we've been laughing about.
Yeah,
that.
It had to be. I was in high school and through 87. It was probably right around that time.
God, it was so. Yeah. See, it's one of those situations. And like Michael, I'm sure you got out east. You got places that you and your family went to.
Oh, sure.
You went to.
Yeah, absolutely. Tweets.
But to be a kid from North Minneapolis, growing up poor as hell and without a dad and all that stuff, to be greeted the way I was over at Jax, the very first time I walked through the door, I was probably maybe late teens or whatever. I think I was 18 because I think I was working at 1500 KSTP the first time I walked in the door. That's been a few years ago, I'll tell you that. So how's everything going? Jax is still just kicking ass.
Well, it's been good. Actually, you signed your last contract 5 contracts ago. Jax with Vinny was still around. It was you and Catherine and Vinny and a few others in a little private room. And I remember going, this is going to be my last contract. We're doing it here. And then that was 5 contracts ago.
That is exactly right.
We're doing good. We bounced back. Was that?
I wonder which one that was.
I don't know. It was a long time
because that
ago.
would have been before I was involved. So
Yeah.
That might have been.
Oh yeah, I suppose so.
Probably mid 90s, maybe late 90s.
Yeah, mid 90s probably.
Final
Mid-
Disney contract, maybe.
It was Disney for sure.
It was Disney for
Yeah,
sure.
I do remember that
Yeah.
because I was surprised that Disney owned was the parent company at the time.
They were, to work for them was unbelievable.
Yeah.
The Disney Corporation for me, and maybe things have changed, gotten a little weird politically, I know, and all the rest of it. But back in those days, I'll never forget, because my job at WAPE in Jacksonville, one of the first things I did when I moved to Jacksonville, Florida, was drive the hour and a half, or I think it was about an hour and a half, maybe it was a couple hours, but I think it was an hour and a half, drove to Disney World for the first time in my life. I was 18 years old. I might have been 19 by then, but so to go to work for Disney, because people said, oh, Disney, you're not going to like Disney very much. They treated me like I did have a 40 share, so that didn't hurt. That didn't hurt things at all. But the CEO, what the hell's his name again? I think he's back there again.
Oh, is that Iceberg or with the E?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
But he used to call me on the phone. You need anything, Tom? I'm like,
wow,
what? He's calling me. He was a great guy to work for. He'd send me. The one thing they did, though, that was hilarious, that everybody who worked for the corporation as an individual got free tickets to go to Disney World and all the rest of it.
Huh.
But I came on as a corporate partner.
Okay.
So I didn't get free tickets.
Oh, okay.
But then was it Eisen? Bob Eisner.
Eisner.
Bob
Okay.
Eisner.
yeah.
That's what it is.
Okay.
Bob Eisner. He made sure I got tickets anyway. And I will never forget that. I mean, one of the great things about having Billy in studio and you for a long time and talking to Andy, the fact that I still can't believe the Timberwolves beat the Lakers. I can't grasp it because they've tried so many times and just never got there. But
it seemed like a different league for years. It seemed like we were JV.
Yes. We're kind of JV. That's exactly right. So, I mean, to get back into town yesterday, and like I said, I got to leave for a couple of weeks. Then I'm coming back for the entire rest of the year, pretty much. To get back on a day when these good things are happening and the weather's pretty damn. I know it's supposed to rain this afternoon, nice, but the weather's very, very pleasant. The people on television and all the radio stations are so excited about all this whole situation, and it just the feeling here is really, really good right now. I think
winning cures a lot.
Oh yeah,
winning does cure a lot.
Winning helps a lot.
Yeah. There is no question about that. We'll take a quick break and be right back, and then we're going to talk about what's going on with your family.
Okay.
Because I want to hear about it.
All right.
That's all I have to say. We'll be right back right after this. Why should your business bank with North American Banking Company? Here's Brian Thiel, president of Abrasives of St. Paul.
What I like best about North American Banking Company is the small town feel with great products and very good service. And I love the people. I would definitely recommend North American to other business owners. A lot of banks I could choose from, and North American Banking Company is the one.
So why not bank where I bank? With my friends at North American Banking Company. Go to nabanco.com to learn more. That's nabanco.com, or stop by any one of their 6 Twin Cities locations. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. From Bradshaw and Bryant, Michael Bryant. What's up, Allie?
Oh, not much. Doing my usual thing of telling people they shouldn't be texting and driving. In Minnesota, you can't have your phone in your hands. You can use, hands-free, but you can't have your phone in your hands for whatever reason. And that's why they made the law the way they did, so that police officers could see a phone in your hand and you got no excuse for why you got it there.
Do people know that that's the law?
I hope so. I mean, they used to follow it, and then kind of COVID kind of made people forget. And now it's like a freewheeling world out there with cell phones.
Let's say you get pulled over because you do have a phone in your hand and you're not watching where you're going. You got to be in pretty big trouble then, I would guess.
Well, the first one's not as bad. It's the multiple ones, the problem. And once people start stacking them up, then they have a big problem. And then what we're doing in car accidents is we've started bringing motions for punitive damages, because I'm trying to use the civil law any way we can to stop this, because it needs to stop.
Whenever I'd had any problems in my life, who was that I called again? It was like an MB, something like that.
Bradshaw and Bryant.
We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Billy's in studio, Mike's in studio, Andy's here. And I know I'm raving about this, but to get back in town the day that the Timberwolves actually pulled off a great victory, it's just wonderful to be back in town at this point. And I would like to say, I think it was, and Billy, you would probably know this, the Lakers left Minneapolis because of the Minneapolis Lakers, I think until 1960.
Yeah, I don't know exactly. Wasn't born yet.
Yeah, well, that's true. You weren't born yet. I think they left in 1960.
Let's see.
But it might have been
here.
59.
About right in that round. Yeah.
Yep, 60.
It was 1960.
My dad, when he was a kid, Tony Jarris was a shirt-tail cousin.
Sure.
He would pick my dad up at the restaurant and drive down. I think they were playing at the Armory or the auditorium back then.
The auditorium, yeah.
My dad said he'd ride down to the games with Tony and sit below the basket and watch the game and ride home with him.
Wow. Tony Jarros, there's a name I haven't heard in a while. In a long time, but honest to God, so basically I can finally, after I guess 65 years now, Lakers, you can kiss my ass. What do you think of that? Seriously, it was this one thrill I had because the Twins hadn't started yet. The Twins started in 61, I believe.
In the 60s, yeah.
It was in the 60s, definitely. But I think it was 61 was their first year, and I've been a Twins fan ever since. But as a little boy, that was the first thing I ever followed was Laker basketball. Mm-hmm. And I never went to a game or anything like that, but I'd listen to them on the radio once in a while. And I just, not having the ability to carry that on later in life. So let me say again, after 65 years, kiss my sister's black cat's ass. You got beat by Minnesota, the Timberwolves. That's all I'm having to say. What do you got with you over there, Billy?
Well, I'm part of a nonprofit called the Minnesota 100. It started 53 years ago. It actually started, you probably remember Jack Reshitar.
Oh, yeah.
From back in the day at the country club. But a group of businessmen threw in $100 in the middle, and there was 100 clubs throughout the country. And they decided we're going to help finance first responders. Back then, basically police killed in the line of duty. Yeah. These cops back in the day, they're all young when they die. They don't have life insurance. So they set out to be the first money. If somebody died, we're there for you. We'll give you the money before any of the federal money or state money comes through. And, often it was to pay a funeral. Now it's grown quite a bit after 53 years. And we support all first responders now in Minnesota. Mm-hmm. And just last week, we delivered a check to the family of that Felicia Riley, who was a St. Paul police officer. Right. Head injury 15 years ago. She was never the same, and she finally died. And we resolved that, so we were able to present a check to that family. So if first responders injured or killed in the line of duty, we're all non-paid volunteers. We have one paid employee, and we raise money to, we're not reactive. Like there's a lot of people, God bless them, that when something happens, they'll GoFundMe or they'll get stuff going and they'll raise money. We're constantly raising money. So when it happens, we're there for them. We had another one that 2 weeks ago, a cop got down in Nobles County, got crushed, airlifted into South Dakota, and we drove down to check to the family. And the easiest way people can support us is these license plates. And
I like that.
And
there's one of those over there.
Yeah. So we former board member Mike Jennings started this. They were doing this in Texas and Arizona, and we got it passed through the legislature. It took a few years, but if you buy this Minnesota 100 plate, it costs you an extra $40. All $40 goes to the club. And shortly after these came out, you see there's these other blackout plates that aren't related to us. That money all goes to the government. So you see those plain blackout plates. Mm-hmm. That's basically all that money goes back to the government. The Minnesota 100 plates, all of your $40 goes to the club, and it's really starting to take off. And it's really been allowed us to raise the bar a little bit of going back to injured first responders, because often a death is final, obviously, right? But there's been cops have been shot in the head, and they're never going to live the same. And we used to be able to give them one benefit payment. Now we can look back and say, this poor person, he or she still they're walking on a ramp, they need more money, right? And so now we can look back and we can do a little more for them. And it's been a great organization. I've known about it for years. They've held stuff at my restaurant, and I've been a board member for about 3.5 years now. But prior to being a board member, I participated in all their events. But this license plate program is changed the game to really let us be there in all four corners of the state, no matter where it happens.
So you can put these on your car.
Yep. Car, I think motorcycles too.
But how do they figure out who owns which car? Because you got to have your license plate number too, right?
Yeah, this is just a sample plate. They don't all say we care.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
So the easiest way is to go online and just say renew or update your plate. You can go into a DMV if you want to spend the time, but I just went online when this started and I bought for all 4 cars that I owned. I changed my plates, pay the $40, and they sent me new plates.
Cops
and then
calling them right now, ladies and gentlemen.
yeah, and then just when you renew each year, you say you want to renew, and so $40 donation to first responders.
And you get what the left side with the 100.
Yeah,
this is
that would be your numbers. Yeah, so. and you can custom them as you would a normal plate.
Wow.
But otherwise, they'll just assign a number, and
that's what they look like for people at home.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There you go.
They look a lot like the official blackout plates.
Yeah. There's been,
Very,
there's
similar.
been a lot of confusion, and I'm not going to bash the governor, but he did know they passed this a year before they came out with their black one, and it's kind of been confusing for some people. I think there are some people that definitely think when they got the other black plate that they were supporting the Minnesota 100. But hey, you having me on today to clear the air for some people, that's very nice.
So I'm assuming my plate number is we care. I'm buying one. There's no question.
Yours is going to be Duh Boss.
Duh Boss. Yeah, there you go. So what's the number you call?
Well, go to the website. It's probably the easiest.
Okay.
It's MN, like Minnesota 100club.org. And then we're having a big,
as a matter of fact, you see it right there.
MN 100club.org. And then we're having a big fundraiser June 3rd, which we did last year too. And it's almost to the sold out point, but we raised over $300,000, just 250 people upstairs at Jax. And
oh God, I've never had any fun up there.
Yeah. People are giving. So people can still sign up for the dinner. If they got a great auction item they want to donate, they can go to our website and get involved. We take volunteers to help with the dinner, help with the golf tournament. We really do 2 events a year. And then we participate with other golf tournaments and stuff where we'll show up, maybe buy a hole and be there and let people know about our organization. But it's been fulfilling. There's a lot of great nonprofits, but boy, I've been to 2 check deliveries now. It was 2 years ago. I was in the one up in Glenwood where the gal's husband got ambushed on a domestic, and you show up 8 days later with a 10-year-old kid and a widow that doesn't know what just happened, and you say, "Here's $50,000. We're here with you."
Man.
And it's life changing. So appreciate the little bit of time to discuss this.
Okay. Well, no, we're going to discuss that a lot more, but I do have to tell a quick story because you just reminded me that once again, Jax has been a part of my life since I was a teenage kid, and Jax has always been there. I just love the place. And the M Club, do they still have their meetings upstairs?
Yeah, they don't anymore. The coaches now make too much money, so they don't show up.
Okay.
They don't show up to anything if they're not paid. But for years, we did the Goal Line Club, the Backcourt Club, the Blue Line Club, the M Club. Yeah.
My favorite story ever. I'm in an M Club meeting upstairs from Jax. It's a great, huge room. It's wonderful. And I get a call. I'm on the way, and Bernard, it's Sydney. I'm going to be a little late, so save me a chair right next to you. I'll be there. I'm going to be late. I said, yeah, I heard you the first time. Well, I just want you to know I'm going to be late. I said, yeah, now it's 3 times you've told me you're going to be late and all the rest of it. So I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, here comes Sid Hartman, and I do miss Sydney. I loved Sydney. He was one of my favorite people, and Chad and I are really good friends right now, as a matter of fact. I just think the world of him as well. But Sydney comes charging in. He's later than hell. He always was later than hell. He comes and he sits down and he grabs a bowl and starts eating tomato soup. And I'm like, okay. All of a sudden he looks at me and goes, what the hell is going on? This is Jax. I love Jax. This soup is terrible. And I said, that's because it's salad dressing.
He had the French dressing.
He's eating the French dressing thinking it's tomato soup.
I tell you what, I thought I knew a lot of stories about Jax. And he was in one time 30 years ago, and he started talking about this room over here, the main dining room, but he'd been around long enough that when there's this original bar, the next bay of the building it's called Cozy's Corner, and it was a little ice cream shop and a little pool hall. And he said, we used to come down here with the Lakers and shoot pool and hang out. And I'm like, I never even knew that. You know, he was the one guy that was there from the beginning.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No question. That whole area.
Him and Ron Lyle.
And Ronnie Lyle. God, I haven't heard that name in a while. Ron Lyle. But that was an area growing up, because right across the river from where I grew up. We'd go over there and that strip, and I do miss Stanley Macelak too. Yeah. Damn, did you ever get to meet Stan Macelak?
No. I don't think so.
He was a professional wrestler, and that boy, even big, at what he was 75, 80 years old, he had these massive muscles. Oh. I will never forget this, and I don't know why I did it, because I knew better. Oh, by the way, I should mention that Stanley was a big fan of the Minnesota Vikings. And one wall, he got sick of it after they lost their 4th Super Bowl. He had the entire wall painted with all these gravestones and called it Grant's Tomb.
Oh, yeah.
It was called Grant's Tomb.
Can I tell you a Stan story?
I would love to hear a Stan story.
I mean, he was a big old wrestling Polak, you know, probably 6th grade education, but he got sick of people stealing his ashtrays. So his ashtrays all said stolen from Macelak's. And, you know, he could have sold, I think General Foods offered him at the time $1.5 million to sell those sandwiches frozen. They were ahead of their time. He said, absolutely not, wouldn't be the same. He sold the whole thing when he sold it for $335,000, but he wasn't going to take the money. But real quick, one time I'm 22 years old, just out of college, and I knew him. He's friends with my dad, and he'd come in on a Monday night. He'd open the door. He's getting older now. It'd take him 5 minutes to get to the end of the bar. He'd stop, and he'd usually have a beef eater martini and then go sit in for dinner. And I said, hey, Stan, how you doing? And he goes, horse crap. I said, ooh, what do you say to this giant? Now I'm like, oh, it's well, that's too bad. What's wrong? He goes, I'm down to the damn cream de mint. And it meant nothing to me. So I went on along the way. He went in for dinner, and the guy he was with later came out, and I asked him about it. He goes, well, when he sold the bar, he kept the apartment. He still lived upstairs. And when he sold the bar, he also kept all the inventory and moved it upstairs. So he was down to the green cream de mint to drink.
He had to start buying stuff.
One time, mistake, I was probably 22 years old, I think, something like that. No, Macelak's. We used to go, those lunches, that sandwich at lunchtime, forget about it. Yep. So you go for lunch at Macelak's, you go for dinner at Jax. Everything had to be right there. In
Arthur's, all of them.
Arthur's, another, oh God, that's another wonderful place. But the mistake I made, and I don't know what the hell I was thinking, but I might have been just 21, actually, because you had to be 21 to drink back then. How old do you have to be now to drink?
21.
Oh, it's because it was 18 for a while.
Yeah,
right?
and then 19. Yeah,
well, that was a huge mistake. No, but it's 21 again.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it should be. Absolutely should be. But I'm sitting there, and I'm 21 years old, and made the mistake, had one too many, and somebody said something to me that I didn't care for, and I gave it the old F-bomb, and Stanley stood up and stared at me, and I went, I'm dead. And he said, he just looks at me, and then he sat back down.
Enough said.
Never did it again. I can guarantee you that.
He trusted nobody. He used to take buses to Green Bay or Chicago, Vikings. He was a huge Viking fan. He actually owned 50-some season tickets back in the day, just at his little bar. But when he was gone, the bar was closed. If he went to Green Bay for the weekend, sign on the door, bar's closed. He didn't trust. He was there.
Yep.
If he wasn't there, they weren't open.
Wow.
God, did you ever get to go to Macelak's when Stanley was around?
I think so. Yeah.
God, it was such a treat. And he always used to put ice in the urinal.
Oh yeah.
We'll never forget that either. But
why?
Why did he? He thought he kept the odor down.
Yeah,
or something?
People have done that. I think they thought it kept it clean. It always made me nervous about that same bucket of ice dumping in a urinal, dumping into the ice bin where somebody's making my drink.
That's a good point.
It went on for a lot of years, a lot of places. Yeah.
It did. That neighborhood is still so special, isn't it?
It's fun again.
I mean, it's just such a special area. Like you're naming some other places going along. And to be a kid from North Minneapolis, just go across the bridge. I could walk to Macelak's or Jax or wherever I was going. Arthur's, you mentioned.
Stop at Irv's on the way.
Irv's. Oh my God, Irv's Bar, right on
Broadway.
Right on Broadway, yeah.
2nd Street.
Jesus, what a great. we're talking about a lot of memories. So again, I want to bring this up again because this is very cool. So when after the show's over today, I call.
Well, it's probably easy. You could.
But you said going online.
If you go online, I'll leave you a card. There's instructions on the back. There's instructions on the website.
Look how long he's known me. Here, Tom, I'll give you the instructions, you dumbass.
Hey, Andy, can you help him after the show?
Exactly.
The easiest way is if you go online and put your current information in this. So you want to, even though you're not up for a renew, you hit renew. It will talk you through it, and then you just say custom plate, and it will pop up, and you do Minnesota 100. And literally, it's changing so many lives for the better to have extra money. We're not calling everybody all the time. Like I said, we do a couple fundraisers, but for $40, right, 2 glasses of wine, you can. This money's all going to good work, and 100% of the money goes to the club from this, and 100% of the money raised by this has to go and benefit. None of this money can be used to run the club. We get that money another way, but all this money goes to the benefit package.
So they have to be they can be letters or numbers.
Yep.
I'm assuming
they'll automatically assign you a license plate number unless you want to customize it and put the boss or the Tom.
How about, I'm trying to shorten it up. Can't put Jax customer. It's too long.
Yeah. Why our bike?
You know what? I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go with why our bike because nobody will know what the hell I'm talking about.
Me and Marty Nanny.
You and Marty. You see, I haven't seen Marty in a while. How's he doing?
He's been down in your neck of the woods in Florida more than he's been up here.
That's true. He's down there all the time. Yeah, he is. As a matter of fact, I have not seen Louis in a while. It's been a couple of years since he moved to Wisconsin.
Yeah, more or less. Yeah.
Well, a lot more or less because he doesn't even have a house in Minnesota anymore.
Yeah.
I don't think he rents a house here anymore.
I don't think so.
He just stays with the other family. But Louis, God, I just, by coincidence, when I flew back from Florida yesterday, Catherine and I are sitting there and I'm talking to her. And she goes, "Is that Glenn?" I said, "What?" I look across the aisle. Glenn, head coach of your Minnesota Gophers. Glenn was sitting right there. And we talked about, he has this lovely, lovely girlfriend or whatever she is. She's far too good for him, just like Catherine's far too good for me. It's one of those kind of deals. And you guys understand that.
Yeah. Glenn was the last, because I don't really count Brewster much. He wasn't around, but Glenn was the last real good supporter of the booster clubs at the U of M.
Oh, Glenn,
and he had good times and bad
job.
times, but he was the last one that said it's worth my time, because the boosters they're there for you when you're having a bad season, right? Everyone's there when you're winning.
Yeah.
But he's told some great stories over the year of stuff that happened that guys he met at those luncheons showed up for him.
It was so great yesterday because we're talking. I mean, I'd let him live his life. I didn't talk to him the whole 4-hour flight. It's a bit too much. But so we're leaving, and the two women are like 50 feet ahead of us. They're talking, and Glenn and I are walking along in the airport here at Minneapolis-St. Paul International. And, we're talking all the rest of it, and it's time to say goodbye. And I reached out and I gave Glenn a hug, and he goes, "You're hugging me?" It's not his kind of deal at all.
Yeah.
But I think the world that meant, it's been 18 years since he left as head coach.
That'd be about right. That'd be right.
18 years. I can't believe that.
Yeah, it's crazy. He could recruit, couldn't he? Nowadays, they don't have to recruit. They just have to decide if the number matches or not.
That's exactly right. Got to come up with enough dough and all the rest of it. So we got to talk a little bit about Jax Cafe and what the menu's looking like these days. You didn't change it, did you?
That's the one thing is I joke often we serve steaks, not trends, right? We serve a lot of fish and seafood and trout are in the trout stream as of last week. But no, I had dinner with my mom. My brother was in town from Amsterdam last night, and my dad's 89, turned 89 2 weeks ago, but he couldn't make it last night, but he still gets around. He's had some health problems, but he still loves to hear the old names of anyone back in his era that came in. Oh, yeah. No, prime rib. Last night our table had New York filet prime rib sandwich. So we kind of did the Jax meal, but it's straightforward steaks, chopped seafood, a lot of banquets. We do a lot of of weddings and groom dinners and that kind of stuff.
Who designed the interior of the restaurant? Because that place has a very special feel about it.
Yeah, so. Again, the building, my great-grandfather built it in 1910. When you walk in, where the bar is now was the original restaurant, where the lobster tank and the booths are. And then the next bay of the building, and then the back half my dad lived in for a while. But
I didn't know that.
Yeah, when he was a kid,
there?
yeah.
Really?
So then the next bay, it kept expanding from 43, and then there was three, my dad and two brothers, and they all had 6 kids. So anytime somebody got married, they freshened something up. But Aaron Carlson Company, basically, they did all the woodwork, and there's all that beautiful cherry wood and other wood. So it was really, I don't know, before my time, I don't know who, there was an interior designer, but it was Aaron Carlson did, and local company did. You couldn't build it like that today. I mean, unless you had an unlimited budget.
Yes.
And then my uncle had been to somewhere in Chicago and saw something with the trout like that, and came back. They hired an engineer, and they said, let's do that trout stream here. And then, the big remodel in the 90s when my mom was real involved in it, there was never really a ladies touch. So she fixed a lot of stuff, and she, made a few changes. We redid the bar in one of the other rooms, but every chance we get, if we make a few bucks, we try to put most of it back in and keep it fresh.
What's amazing about that, the last time I was there, because it was last, I think, October was the last time I was in, because I'd been out of town. Excuse me. But I walk into that place, and I think every person who ever listened to the KQ Morning Show eats at Jax.
Yeah.
Because they're like, hey, Tommy.
Yeah.
It's like, honest to God.
That's the era, man. We all grew up driving to high school, listening to you, and then stayed with it.
Amazing.
I do remember that when I was a kid in the early 80s, I'd be a busboy, and I'd be, in and out of the kitchen, and the dishwashers always had KQ on. And when I wasn't hearing you say Boyd's on the River for one of your advertisements, but it was always a big deal, right? They would call in and request a song. And when they got to hear Tom Bernard say, for the crew in the swamp at the dish swamp at Jax Cafe, and then whatever song they requested. I mean, seems like yesterday. That was 45 years ago.
45. What other than
40.
that?
Yeah.
Other than that, everything. It's one of those very special things. Do you have a place like that you went all the time as a kid?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Tweets and Bristol was a big thing.
It was a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that wonderful?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like I said, my mother's birthday parties, or her very last birthday party before she passed away, was at Jax. And it's just one of those kind of places. By the way, I should mention this segment of the show is sponsored by Josh Arnold. We should probably take our final break and come back and close things out in about 10, 15 minutes so you guys can live your lives. Mm-hmm. We'll be right back right after this. Does thinking about retirement make you uncomfortable? Sometimes the anxiety for wondering if you've saved enough can be overwhelming. But what if I told you that you could ease those tensions in just 48 minutes? My guy, Josh Arnold, Mr. Money Talk, can sit down with you and get you on the right track for your financial future. Josh has navigated it all when it comes to uncertain market and economic conditions, and he'll always provide straight talk. Never sugar-coated advice on how to reach the finish line with your retirement goals. Don't let your financial worries give you an ulcer or keep you from calling Josh right now. His 48-minute no-obligation consultation could be just what you need to feel better about your future. Call Josh today at 952-925-5608. Set up your free 48-minute no-obligation consultation. That's 952-925-5608. Investment services offered by Josh Arnold Investment Consultant, LLC Security Investment Advisor. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. All investments must involve risk. You know that. All comments and opinions of Josh Arnold's do not constitute investment advice. I am a paid endorser. I'm talking with my friends Michael Bilski and Brad Huckle of North American Banking Company. Guys, business owners have had to deal with a lot over the last few years, haven't they?
They sure have, Tommy. We pride ourselves on being able to help our customers with the challenges they face.
Our business bankers are experts and are always ready to help our customers capitalize on opportunities and solve problems.
Loan decisions come quickly because they're made here in the Twin Cities and not shipped out of state like at some of the national banks in town.
This allows our customers to expand their businesses with confidence, knowing that they have our team of experts in their corner.
Okay, so now you give me this big thing at the end. Way to go.
Well, you are the professional.
Oh, I forgot. Look, I know Brad and Mike, and I trust them with my banking. They've personally delivered on everything they've just said, so why not bank with my banker? North American Banking Company, a better banking experience, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
We grew up together. His dad coached us.
We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Oh,
We
listen
sure
to you guys
are.
schmoozing over there. No, honestly, there's one thing about doing this show. You know, we just heard from from Josh Arnold and Bilski there, and these guys are my friends. Michael Bryant, I already sent him a message on the airplane that I was coming back, and then he comes wandering in this morning, which is a wonderful thing. Andy had told me, Billy, that you were going to come on. He told me a couple of days ago about that. It's just, that's one of those situations. I don't know how people, where they grew up, they leave that area, because you still go back to your old haunts. Not as much as you did.
Because my brother in Virginia Beach, but
right.
Every once in a while.
Yeah. But seriously, just to go back, and I was talking about the Lenza Byerly's out in Wayzata. I walk in there this morning, you would have thought I was God. That's the kind of thing, but that's the way I'm always treated when I go to Jax. I walk in the front door and everybody knows who I am, and I don't know how people stay away from where they grew up or whatever the situation is, because those great memories of, the first time you ever did sit down and eat a good steak, because there weren't a lot of good steakhouses in North Minneapolis.
No.
I will tell you that.
Riverview Supper Club.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Boy, that goes back a ways right there. Yeah, ours is pretty much Broadway pizza.
Yeah.
That was the highlight of the entire deal. That's still over there, isn't it?
No, it's housing now.
Yep. Broadway's gone. Yeah.
It's gone.
And Broadway pizza's still around.
Yeah, Broadway pizza's still around.
That one's gone.
That one, the old Eddie Peck one's gone, and it's
Eddie Peck. Oh my God.
housing, not the ones you're going to live in.
Yeah.
God, Terry Burnham. I used to want to go in there and watch him spit the dough around. And, oh my God, those were
beautiful property there too. Yeah,
that's another one of those places. The original Broadway pizza. You'd be sitting there having your pizza, and all of a sudden the cops would come in.
Oh yeah,
to pick up their pizza, and they'd walk in, and one guy, and I don't even say who it is, but you would know him because he was one of the big cops in town. He'd go, "Anybody has a weapon, put it on the table now." And all these knives and guns and all that stuff would come out and put them on that building's not even there anymore. Obviously,
they developed.
But if you had I don't care if you had a billy club, a gun, a knife, or whatever, everybody put their weapons on the table. The cops got their stuff. All right, put them back in your pocket and leave it there. And they'd leave. I will never forget that. They wanted to know who the hell was carrying what. Yeah. They never took anything from anybody, but that was a different experience. And that's how I grew up, though. Go in the bar, you're going to run into that.
Well, and so much better for the cops back then. They knew the players, if you will, back then, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And there was almost a self-respect on both sides. So things got pretty bad. Now these poor guys, every time they turn the corner and knock on a door, they don't know what they're getting into.
Yeah, that's very, very true. Unbelievable. Any closing words, man? I'm really glad, Michael, that you were here when Billy came in, because it's just
been to Jax many times. Great place.
God, I just love it.
Yeah, appreciate it. No, great. Welcome home.
I got to go back one more time for like 2 weeks, and then I'm coming home for the rest of the year. I'll be back probably on the 25th of May, something like that.
Well, I appreciate you having me on. And like I said, if anybody wants to get involved with the Minnesota 100 or support us, mn100club.org. And there's ways to volunteer, ways to donate. Keep it at that. You see our license plate, somebody cares about first responders.
I want to follow your lead and go with YR bike, your bike. I'm going to put that on my plate. I just love the fact that you guys, and you always have, there's no question about that, support the cops. And people always think I'm weird because I grew up in North Minneapolis, very troubled area, no question about it. A lot of gunplay and murders and hookers and the whole deal growing up with that. But the cops in this town, I wish people would understand the cops in Minneapolis and St. Paul and how special they really are. The BS that they put up with, but only to a certain point. Don't push too far. But I mean, knowing the cops back when I was a kid in North Minneapolis was a very important thing. Yeah. My mother's first cousin, Lamont Dean, was, a detective. I will never forget. Maybe I'll close with this one. So he's coming back home from downtown. He lived in Brooklyn Park. Coming back home from downtown where he worked, and he stopped at Emerson and Plymouth Avenue, stopped for the light. A guy comes over because he's a detective, plainclothes detective. Guy comes over and opens his door, the passenger door. And Lamont goes, "May I help you?"
My grandfather on my mom's side was a cop in Northeast. So there was a lot of stories when I was real young. He was retired by the time, but when we'd go to the cabin, his cabin up on Mille Lacs, before we would leave, he'd hide his gun in the basement. And he wouldn't take it with him up north, but he'd always hide it. And, we were always so, wow, like he had that in the house and different times. But yeah, once I think he always said, and it stands true today, the worst call you could ever get was a domestic. And that's the one thing that hasn't changed.
That's what I understand. They get very, very violent.
Yeah.
No, but so it's basically I don't get along with my wife, so I should hurt you.
Yeah.
What the hell is that? I don't understand that.
Yeah. Rage.
You grew up with some of this in your life.
No, everybody has.
I suppose that's true. Everybody kind of has. But I really do appreciate it. Like I said, where I grew up, and I still love North Minneapolis. A lot of turmoil, a lot of hatred, this, that, and the other thing. But I still love that area. It's changed a lot. There's no question. People don't believe me when I tell them the fact that I lived at 2955 Russell. It burned to the ground. I lived at 3015 Russell. We got ousted. I lived at 3115 Russell. And finally, my brother came home from the Marine Corps and we moved out of that. I lived in 3 different houses, and that from 30th to Lowry was just one block. It was one long block. So it went from 30 to 31, but 31 was right in the middle of the same block. So in the middle, and 2955, of course. And by the way, the house burned down. That's still an empty lot today.
Oh, wow.
It's been an empty lot for 65 years.
I looked it up like a month ago or something. And yeah, it's just empty.
It's an empty lot. I don't know why they never rebuilt on that deal, but you looked it up. Yeah, we looked it up because apparently there was a gun battle on that corner.
Yeah.
They're looking for investors.
They were looking for investors.
Yeah.
What a treat to have you both in at the same time. And Andy was here. I
was also here.
So many. I was also here. No, but all those great memories. And I wish people would understand that even if you didn't grow up with any money, or you had a dad that was off the deep end and institutionalized and blah blah blah, there are still wonderful memories of being a kid in that neighborhood. There really are. Some pain and all the rest of it, but you look at both sides. I don't want you to ignore the bad side, but look at the good side too, because all the people I did meet, the Fisher family, the Lorentz, the O'Briens, the Lundins, you go down the list, wonderful, wonderful people. And going into Jax, it's like going home for me. Yeah. It just is. There's no question. So that's going to do it. I'm going to be in town for a few days, so I might be seeing you over at the restaurant. Now, when do you work?
Well, we're open Wednesday through Sunday. I basically work I get most done on the days we're closed. But this time of year now, other than this weekend, I'm there pretty much all the time. And I do have a son graduating from college in a couple weeks.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, 2 out of 3. I got one who will be finishing her freshman year. But yeah, I'm getting closer.
Nice.
So lunches aren't as frequent as they used to be at any restaurant.
Yeah, no, we just do Friday and then a Saturday, Sunday brunch. But it all feeds off downtown. 60% of our lunch customers were professionals downtown. So people say you're going to open more for lunch. When the city is vibrant again and people I'd love to open for lunch again.
Yeah.
Coming out of COVID, you didn't have the staff, but you got to have the customers to be open.
But I don't think anybody's open 7 days a week for lunch anymore.
No,
boy, I don't know. They used to be all open.
Oh, yeah. Skyways used to be vibrant. You used to have lots of different places you could go for lunch.
What's the cause of that?
No. COVID and the drop in activities in Minneapolis.
Violence, I suppose.
Well, violence played a role. Yeah. Sure.
That's unfortunate.
Just need people working in an office again, or even from home going out to lunch.
Yeah.
Put the phone down and go out to lunch with your customers.
God, remember those days, how great that was. There were days I went to Jax for lunch and then came back for dinner.
There were days we'd kick our lunch customers out to the bar so we could seat our dinner customers.
It's true, too. What a thrill this was to come home. And the very next day after I come home, you guys come in. It's very, very special. There's no question about that. So thank you, folks, for listening. And what's the address of Jax again? I forgot.
It's easiest. 20th and University Northeast.
20th and University Northeast.
And if you want to make a reservation, why not go to tombernardpodcast.com and click make a reservation. It'll take you right to their website.
I love that. And I will be doing this when I get back home, ladies and gentlemen, and do this. I highly recommend it. How much did you raise, you say?
Well, this is we've 2.5 full years. We find out the fiscal year ends June 30th for the state. So it's based on them. Okay. Probably $1 million this year.
Good. That's wonderful.
Yeah. And then it will compound each year because all new ones plus renewals. Yeah.
What if your bike is already taken?
Remember when you had license plates on bikes?
Yes, I do remember that.
Well, good news. I just looked, and YR bike is not taken.
Here, I better
You
get
better
that back
hurry.
to you.
There you go.
Make sure
You
that
better
we
hurry
don't-
before one
Nice
of
to
our
meet you.
listeners
Like
checks
I
it.
said, Mike Sable said
You
hi.
got it, Andy.
Okay, we're
Give it a little
we're out of here.
Talk to you
His,
later. See you
boy,
tomorrow.
we spent a lot of time.
Got a picture in my pocket reminds me of this one was before. Every time I hear the sing reminds me how you talk in my door.